Hi guys, today we're going to look at our Monday language arts work. For our reading, we're going to be reading a story called The Native Americans and then completing the questions. We will also be working on a commas page. You need to complete 30 minutes of iReady reading today, and when you're done with that, you can read any book that you like. You can go on to Epic Books, or you can just find a book in your library. For writing today, we will also be doing long vowels practice pages. For commas and long vowels, I will be making a separate video, but this video is for the Native Americans and the story. So in the packet, you'll see you have the page with the reading, and then we have the 2 pages of questions. So let's go ahead and begin. I'm turning and opening our pages to Native Americans. So when I look at the picture, I can see 2 women sitting here. It looks like they are getting their hair done, maybe for a ceremony of some sort. Here we go. Native Americans have been living in what is now the United States of America for a very long time. They were there long before any Europeans came. There are many distinct or different groups of Native Americans. These groups are called tribes. Distinct Native American tribes have different languages. They also have different beliefs, and they have different ways of living. You can see how different tribes can be by comparing them. Okay, so we have the word distinct right here. So it tells us, it gives us the context clue to what the word distinct means, and it means different. So the word distinct means different. First, look at the Hopi tribe. The Hopi are Native Americans who live in the southwest part of the United States. When Spanish people first came to the area where the Hopi were, they called the Hopi Pueblo people. Pueblo means town in Spanish. They called the Hopi that because the Hopi lived together in towns. The Hopi were known for their farming, and they have always been very peaceful. Their name comes from the word Hopitu Si no Mu in the Hopi language. This means the peaceful people, or the peaceful little ones. Now compare the Hopi to the Navajo tribe. The Navajo come from the same area as the Hopi, but they did not stay in one place. They did not live in towns. Instead, they moved from place to place. Also, the Navajo were not known for farming. Instead, they were known for hunting and gathering to get their food. After Spanish people came, the Navajo became known for taking care of sheep. The Hopi did not. The Hopi and the Navajo come from the same area, but they are distinct groups of people. There are many differences between them. Now, think about how different tribes that do not come from the same area might be. For example, compare the Chinook and the Penobscot. The Chinook live along the Pacific Ocean. They have been there for thousands of years. They have always been known for being good at fishing. They made huge canoes or boats. They caught salmon often. The salmon was a very important source of food for them. Salmon is important to the Chinook's sense of who they are. The Penobscot lived on the other end of the country. They are in Maine. The animals they hunt are important to the Penobscot's sense of who they are, just like the Chinook. But the Penobscot hunt different animals than the Chinook. They hunt beavers, otters, and moose. They also hunt bears and caribou. Caribou is a type of reindeer. There are many Native American tribes that are still strong today. More than 500 of them are recognized by the United States of America. That means they may have their own government, They can have their own laws, taxes, and rules. There are also about 400 other tribes. All in all, there are about 1,000 groups of Native American people in the United States, and each group is distinct. Let's take a look at our story questions. Question number 1. How long have Native Americans been living in America? A few decades? Since after the arrival of the Europeans? About the same time as the Europeans, or long before any Europeans came? Well, let's go back to paragraph 1 because I think it tells us. Let's see. Native Americans have been living in what is now the United States of America for a very long time. They were there before any Europeans came. So that means our answer is D, long before any Europeans came. Number 2, why did the author compare different or distinct Native American tribes throughout the passage? He kept comparing them, right? They started by comparing the Hopi and the Navajo, then he compared the Chinook and the Penobscot Indians. So why? Is it A, to show that they all come from the same area of North America? To show how different the Native American tribes can be? To show different ways that they found food? Or to show the traveling patterns of different Native American tribes? If you said B, you are correct. Reread the sentence. The Hopi and the Navajo were and are two very distinct groups of people, and they come from the same part of the continent. So think about how much other tribes from other parts of the continent might differ. Remember, so the Hopi and the Navajo lived in the exact same area, right? And the Penobscot and the Chinook lived in two different areas. So what is the author suggesting with this information? Are the Hopi and the Navajo tribes extremely unusual tribes? Native American tribes from different parts of the continent may be similar to the Hopi and the Navajo. Native American tribes from different parts of the continent may be even more distinct from the Hopi and the Navajo. Or other tribes may try to move to the part of North America where the Hopi and the Navajo live. If you said C, you are correct. Number 4, what can be inferred? So what conclusion can you come, what educated guess can you make about how the number of Native American tribes has changed over time? Are there more tribes today than there were in the 16th century? Are there fewer tribes today than in the 16th century? Are there about the same number of tribes today as in the 16th century? Or is it unclear how the number of Native American tribes have changed? Now, the tricky part about this question is it doesn't actually tell us this, so we have to come to our own conclusion. And if you guessed that there are fewer Native American tribes today than there were in the 16th century, you are correct. As we learn about the Native Americans and what happens to them as Europeans come to America, we will learn that the tribe numbers drop considerably. All right, let's go ahead and turn the page. Question number 5. What is the main idea of this story? So what's the big idea? Is it that Native American tribes can be very different from one another? Is it that Native American tribes should be recognized because they're so similar for their similarities? Is it the Spanish had a large role in determining the difference of the Native American tribes? So the Spanish said, hey, you Hopi, you guys are going to live in towns. Hey, you Navajo, you guys are going to move around from area to area. Or is it that the Hopi and Navajo are the two most important Native American tribes out of all of them? You said A. You are correct. It's all about how all these different Native American tribes were different from each other. And they can be very different from one another, even if they do live in the same area. Question number 6. Read the sentences from paragraph 3. But instead of being a Pueblo people, instead of staying in one place, the Navajo moved around. They didn't live in permanent towns like the Hopi. They were a semi-nomadic people. As used in the sentence, what do you think the word permanent most nearly means? So what is permanent? If something is permanent, does it change? Is it cultural? Is it long-lasting? Or is it unstable? So if something's permanent, that means it's probably going to last a really, really long time. All right, number 7. Choose the answer that best completes the sentence below. The Chinook and the Penobscot tribes both derive meaning from the animals they hunt because the animals they hunt are completely different, even though the animals they hunt are completely different. In contrast, the animals they hunt are completely different, or nevertheless, the animals they hunt are completely different. If you said even though, you are correct. Okay, for number 8, 9, and 10, I would recommend getting a separate sheet of paper to answer these, but if you can write in the space right there, you are welcome to. Try to use race when you are answering these questions. According to the passage, what similarity do the Penobscot tribe from Maine share with the Chinook tribe that live near the Pacific Ocean? Let's go back to the story, and it talks about what they share. So it says right here, the Penobscot live on the other end of the country. They are in Maine. The animals they hunt are important to the Penobscot sense of who they are, just like the Chinook. So right here, this sentence, this is our evidence. So what you should write is something, you need to restate the question. The Penobscot tribe shares a sense of who they are with the Chinook tribe through what they hunt. Here. You can pause this video and catch up if you need to. If you wrote something different down, that's fine too, as long as it has something about that they are sharing a sense of who they are through the foods, through the animals that they are hunting. Both the Hopi and the Navajo people came from what is now the American Southwest, yet they had different lifestyles. Explain how the lifestyle of the Hopi people differed from the lifestyle of the Navajo people. So how did the Hopi people live? So the Hopi did they live in permanent housing or did they move around from place to place? For that, you can go back to the second paragraph right here and you can reread it. But the Hopi lived in, and if you forget how to spell permanent, permanent's right here. Permanent homes, and let's see, did they hunt or did they farm? Well, let's go back and double check. And it tells me that they were also known for their farming. Okay, so, and they farmed. I'm going to let you complete the sentence on the Navajo people. The Navajo people, how did they live? Did they move from place to place? Were they known for their farming? You can go back and reread paragraph 3. Paragraph 3. Okay, now we'll tell you. Right, question number 10. Native American tribes can be similar in some ways, even though they are very different in other ways. How do you know that? Use evidence from the text to support the statement. So how do you know that even though they can be similar in many ways, that they can also be different? So go back and talk about how the Hopi and the Navajo, even though they lived in the same area, they had different lifestyles. Or how the Chinook and the Penobscots, even though they both valued and thought about the ways what they ate, what they hunted, right? But the things that they hunted were different. How was that different for them? Okay, that's it, guys. When you're done with this, make sure you save it and turn it in on Friday. Bye.